The news of Jerusalem's fall to Saladin in 1187 spread like wildfire across Europe. Pope Gregory VIII called for a crusade, and the streets of England were filled with fervor and anticipation. Richard, a prince at the time, felt his heart pound with both excitement and a sense of divine purpose, knowing he was destined to reclaim the Holy City. In 1189, amidst the cold stone walls of Westminster Abbey, Richard was crowned King of England. The air was thick with the scent of incense as noblemen pledged their allegiance, and Richard could feel the weight of both the crown and the promise to liberate Jerusalem. His eyes carried the fire of a warrior. He knew his destiny lay beyond the sea. By 1190, the vast fleet of the Third Crusade set sail from Europe, their banners snapping in the salty breeze. The ships, loaded with knights, horses, and provisions, cut through the waves as they made their way to the Holy Land. Richard, standing at the helm, felt the cold spray on his face, his mind focused on the battles that awaited him. Richard arrived in Acre in 1191, a city under siege by Crusader forces. The summer heat was relentless, and the stench of the battlefield lingered in the air as Richard's troops disembarked. The sight of the battered city reminded him of the challenge ahead. He knew that only through unity and strength could the Crusaders achieve victory. The Crusader forces, now bolstered by Richard's arrival, renewed their assault on Acre. Arrows rained down under the blistering sun, and the clash of swords echoed as the Crusaders breached the walls. Richard fought at the front, his sword flashing in the sunlight, driving his men forward with courage and determination. Saladin, the Sultan of Egypt and Syria, watched the fall of Acre from a nearby hill. His heart was heavy, but his resolve was unbroken. He knew the Crusaders would not rest until Jerusalem was theirs. The desert wind carried the dust of battle, and Saladin prayed for the strength to protect the Holy Land from the invaders. After the victory at Acre, Richard's reputation as a formidable warrior grew. The soldiers, exhausted from the heat and the battle, felt a renewed sense of hope under their king's leadership. The nights were cool, and around the campfires, they spoke in hushed voices about the Lionheart's bravery. Richard led his forces south toward Jaffa, a vital port city, hoping to secure it as a base for an eventual march on Jerusalem. The scorching heat of the day and the cold of the night took a toll on his men, but Richard pushed them onward, his presence inspiring their perseverance. Every step closer to Jaffa brought them closer to their ultimate goal. Saladin's forces harassed the Crusaders as they marched, launching quick raids before disappearing into the desert. The sand stung their eyes, and the knights struggled to maintain formation as arrows whistled through the air. Richard's knights, though weary, fought back fiercely, determined not to yield an inch of ground. In September 1191, Richard's forces faced Saladin in open battle near Arsuf. The sun bore down on the armored knights as the two armies clashed, the dust rising in thick clouds around them. Richard, atop his war horse, led a devastating charge, breaking through Saladin's lines and securing a crucial victory. Despite their enmity, Richard and Saladin respected each other as worthy adversaries. Saladin marveled at Richard's courage, while Richard admired Saladin's honor and chivalry. The two leaders, though separated by religion and culture, were united in their dedication to their cause and their warriors. As both sides suffered heavy losses, negotiations began between Richard and Saladin. The desert heat was oppressive as envoys moved between the two camps, carrying messages and proposals. Though neither leader was willing to fully compromise, they both knew that a prolonged war would only bring more suffering. Richard fell ill during the campaign, the relentless heat and harsh conditions taking their toll on his body. He lay in his tent, the air stifling, as his men whispered prayers for his recovery. Saladin, hearing of his enemy's illness, sent fruits and snow from the mountains, a gesture of respect between two great warriors. In July 1192, Saladin launched an attack on Jaffa, hoping to recapture the city. Richard, still recovering, led a daring defense, rallying his men and driving the enemy back to the sea. The cries of battle mixed with the crashing waves as Richard's forces held the line, refusing to let Jaffa fall. Both armies were exhausted, their resources stretched thin, and it became clear that neither side could achieve a decisive victory. The searing summer heat weighed heavily on the soldiers, and morale began to falter. Richard knew that the time had come to seek a resolution to the conflict. In September 1192, Richard and Saladin agreed to a truce. The Treaty of Jaffa allowed Christian pilgrims access to Jerusalem while keeping the city under Muslim control. The cool evening breeze brought a sense of relief to both camps as the long and bloody struggle finally came to an end. Before Richard departed the Holy Land, he and Saladin exchanged letters, each acknowledging the other's valor. Though they had fought on opposing sides, there was a bond of mutual respect between them. The desert wind carried their words across the sands, a testament to their shared chivalry. Richard began his journey back to Europe, the weight of both victory and unfinished business resting heavily on his shoulders. The sea was calm as the ship set sail, but Richard's heart was troubled. He had not reclaimed Jerusalem, yet he had fought with honor. His men, though weary, were proud of their king, who had led them through every challenge with courage. Saladin stood on the hills overlooking Jerusalem, watching the sunset bathe the city in golden light. He was relieved that the war had ended, yet he admired the bravery of his opponents. He prayed for peace, hoping that one day the land could be shared by all who held it dear. On his way back to England, Richard was captured and imprisoned by Leopold of Austria. The cold, damp walls of his cell were a stark contrast to the open desert, and Richard longed for the freedom of the battlefield. Yet even in captivity, he remained resolute, his spirit unbroken. After a long imprisonment, Richard was finally ransomed and released in 1194. The people of England rejoiced as their king returned, the harsh memories of the Crusade still fresh in his mind. The cool English rain was a welcome change from the burning desert, yet Richard knew his heart would always be in the Holy Land. Saladin, too, was weary from the years of war. He dedicated his final days to his people, ensuring that the lands he had fought for were protected and his subjects cared for. The sands of the desert continued to shift, but Saladin's legacy remained steadfast. The stories of Richard and Saladin spread across Europe and the Middle East, becoming legends. Poets and chroniclers spoke of their battles and their chivalry, their rivalry inspiring generations. Though they had fought as enemies, they were remembered as paragons of courage and honor. Richard's reputation as a warrior king endured, his courage on the battlefield unmatched. His subjects admired him not only for his victories, but also for his fair treatment of his enemies. The tales of his duel with Saladin became part of England's proud history. Saladin was remembered for his mercy and justice, even in the face of his enemies. His name became synonymous with honor, a ruler who had fought fiercely but treated his foes with compassion. The people of the Middle East revered him as a true defender of the faith. The Third Crusade, though unable to reclaim Jerusalem, had a profound impact on both Europe and the Middle East. The warriors who returned brought back stories, culture, and knowledge, bridging the gap between two worlds. The legacy of Richard and Saladin was a reminder of both the glory and the tragedy of war. Richard and Saladin's rivalry was a duel not only of armies, but of ideals. Both men embodied the chivalric code, with Richard's boldness matching Saladin's wisdom. Their struggle was fought with both swords and words, a clash of faiths and cultures that transcended the battlefield. While swords clashed on the battlefield, another battle was fought in the hearts and minds of their followers. Richard inspired his men with promises of glory and the righteous cause of reclaiming the Holy Land, while Saladin rallied his forces with the conviction of defending their home and faith. The clash of these two figures was not only physical, but also a spiritual struggle that resonated with their people. The desert, indifferent to the blood shed on its sands, continued to shift and change. The memories of war faded, but the stories of the Lionheart and the Sultan lived on. In both East and West, their names became symbols of strength, resilience, and the complicated human desire for power and peace. Richard and Saladin, though adversaries, left a legacy that underscored the importance of honor, even amidst conflict. Their respect for each other became a rare symbol of unity in a time defined by division. And so, as the sun set over the Holy Land, their legends grew, reminding future generations that true greatness is found not just in conquest, but in respect for one's enemy and the pursuit of peace. Our journey through time comes to an end for today. We embark on new adventures every week. If you relish the experience, please like and subscribe.